Hello and welcome to My Voice podcast. I'm Alex Wilkinson, a sport and exercise psychology student from Loughborough University. I'm currently on an internship with Sport and Communities, who are a community development organisation that supports all members of the community, from young to old, across a broad spectrum of needs. This podcast is part of the My Voice project, a national community lottery funded programme that helps to give young people a voice in their community and a platform for creating change and social action. Thank you for taking the time to join me, and welcome to My Voice podcast. I'm going to start today's podcast by first introducing my two guests. A warm welcome to Talia and Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave Richards. I'm the Insight and Evaluation Officer at Sport and Communities. My day job really involves collecting information and piecing reports together and doing case studies and that sort of thing. And that's a job that I've been doing for just coming up to about a year now.
Thank you very much. Now, Talia, how have you been involved with Sporting Communities?
So I've known them for about 5 years now, and I've been doing a bit of work helping out in the community with the sessions.
That's fantastic. So a warm welcome to you both. Now, today's podcast is focusing on motivation and where we can find motivation to help us all thrive during COVID-19. Firstly, though, I just want to know if you describe yourself as a motivated person, Dave.
Yeah, I think I describe myself as a motivated person in the sense that when my mind is on something, I've got a task in front of me, I'm ready to do it, I can do it. But I think this coronavirus situation has brought up so many challenges in terms of understanding what's needed to be done in some respect, and also not just motivation when it comes down to work. It comes down to motivation when we're talking about personal lives as well being impacted, personal relationships, and motivation to see family is so much more greater now than it ever was because of that. And obviously we've got that strain of not being able to see family members, which is very difficult. And I think as well for me, another motivation is being physically active at this moment in time. There's more opportunities out there at the moment. I'm training to do a marathon in July, so there's more. I'm having to focus a lot more around that, and I think this time has allowed that to happen. So it's changed a little bit. It's really strange for me.
Like you say, then I would describe you as a motivated person because, as you're saying, you're actively out seeking a challenge and you're not afraid to fail. You're willing to try and you're willing to train. As you mentioned, with this marathon coming up. Talia, would you describe yourself as a motivated person?
Yeah, I would describe myself as, like Dave said, you've got to have more motivation to be able to do different tasks now because of what's happening. Because obviously, down to training, you've got to limit yourself, but then you've got to be motivated to push yourself more than you would before. Because I know that people have been doing training a lot more than they would have done before. So if now they're doing more exercise outdoors and going for runs, because you can only go out at certain times.
Yeah, like you say, people are finding new hobbies and interests and they feel quite motivated at this time to do those. And with lockdown, personally, I find that motivation comes in waves, and some days you might find that you wake up and you really lack that motivation to do your different jobs, and that's why it's important that you focus on the tasks ahead. Now, motivation doesn't just come in one form. There are two types of motivation, which are intrinsic and extrinsic. Now, intrinsic motivation is like the inner drive within you to achieve success, whereas extrinsic motivation is the drive to succeed from an outside source. So this might be like a reward or maybe praise from peers or work members or family. And it's critical that we do focus on what's important to us during lockdown and what we need to complete. And I think that's where you can harvest these different motivations from.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like during lockdown, you've got to actually prepare yourself first before you get that source of motivation, so you actually feel ready to achieve a task. and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Because sometimes the actual task ahead, you may be unclear of what you need to do, or maybe a bit confused about how you're going to achieve it. And sometimes the simplest ways are often the most effective. And if you just create a written list of what you need to do, you can separate the list into lifestyle jobs and into work and education jobs. It can You segment everything so you're able to understand what you have to do. And by creating this list, you physically go through the action of writing it, so you understand and you remember what you need to do, and it does motivate you. Ticking those jobs off as you go, I think, gives a bit of feedback. It makes you feel better about yourself. Is
Yeah.
there is there any techniques that you've been using, Dave, during lockdown to help keep your motivation?
I think a lot of it's for me has been balance. I think it's having, because I'm working from, we're all obviously at sporting communities, we're all working from home, and during this time, I found it quite easy to separate what I was doing. So, for instance, I'd have like a list for work and a list for home, and I'd have stuff to do throughout the day. I've been finding that being able to have the freedom to, to spend a bit more time doing work and then getting the stuff done that's needed to be done, and then actually I can just quickly go do a job on the outside whilst I'm having a break or something like that has been really important. And what I don't want, the problem is then it's falling into the trap of losing track about what you're doing and what tasks actually need to be done. And I'm finding that I've never had such a spotless house. I've never had such like a tidy garden outside. I've never my car has never been so clean. But I just don't know where this time was before. It's really strange.
It was filled with seeing friends and family and doing all those different parts that we're not able to do now. I think an important factor is that during lockdown, everything can feel repetitive, and it's crucial that you prevent boredom. And by doing this, you can actually switch up your tasks or actually switch up your exercise. And by changing a few things, you can create a new environment or a new interest for yourself. I found that doing a morning of exercise and then jobs afterwards is quite effective. And then sometimes if you work throughout the day or in the morning and then exercise in the evening, it can also feel quite different. So the days don't all blur into one, and it actually changes your routine because you have to keep it interesting. And I think finding variation in lockdowns really important when we've had 8 weeks now of lockdown and everything's felt very similar. I mean, some people say that they don't know what day of the week it is, which is, it's crazy to think, really. How have you found sort of the repetitiveness of lockdown, Talia? Is there anything you're doing to try and make your days more interesting so you do still feel motivated to do tasks?
Yeah, I've had to balance out what I'm actually doing now, because normally I just had to do whatever, like whenever I could. But now I've actually I've got more time to do the things that I need to do. So I've had to balance out between schoolwork, like exercising, but then also like getting myself like just like calming down and things like that, just so I don't overwork myself and like just build up that stress, just so you're unmotivated to carry on of what I'm already doing.
That's really that point there where you say like about building up stress, then you feel unmotivated. It's really important that you sort of take breaks and do try and enjoy some downtime with it. And like you say, you found a nice balance there during lockdown. I presume, have you been changing your routine, or have you been kept it quite structured? I presume you're doing educational work, and that's what was maybe leading to some of the stress.
Yeah, definitely. But I have changed it into a way that I can work around. So I've had to make a timetable of what I've got to like do, and also like a list of what needs to be done and what can wait. So I've done the most important things, so I do those first and get those done, and then just do the things that like aren't necessary just over like a course of time to just like just get them done.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And staying positive is really important as well. So if
Yeah.
you feel overwhelmed by a situation, breaking it down like you have done into important and maybe less urgent jobs or tasks, and you actually put them into segments of smaller jobs, it can help you understand what is needed from you and what you need to do on those different days.
And also I've put in like time where I can like connect with other people, so like friends and other family and around, just to like have that kind of positive environment around you, just like get to catch up, just so you can like focus on something positive rather than what's happening. But then also, if you've got like that positive energy from all of that, then that'll motivate you to do your next task once you've finished doing that one.
100%. And actually being rewarded by feeling good about yourself for completing that previous task, like you say, can help you move on to the next task.
Yeah.
And I think rewarding yourself and definitely praising yourself is really important, because if, let's say, hypothetically, you're asked to do a job within the house, but your mum says you can get rewarded by a treat or an ice lolly or something like that, it gives you a motivation to do so. And
yeah,
definitely supporting other people in your household and who you're living with by creating breaks, or saying that at the weekend that you'll have a quiz night, or you'll have games that you're going to play in the evening because you've done all the jobs during the week. I think that's really important. So it seems like you've got a good balance there, Talia.
Yeah, we've definitely been spending more time together and finding more time to do stuff. But then we get like all of the stuff that we need to do during the day. And then like at night, we all have that time together where we don't have to focus on any tasks that need to be done or anything.
What have you found, Dave, when what's sort of the hardest thing you found getting motivated for? Because everybody's different in what they struggle to find motivation in. So what have you found the easiest and what have you found the hardest?
I think adjusting. I think when we talk about, as I mentioned, I'm quite a social person. I prefer to go out and be with my friends, or I don't normally like sitting in sort of one place for too long. I get dead fidgety and I can't sort of I just can't do it. So I think sort of being motivated for doing tasks that are requiring me to sit still for a prolonged period of time is I found quite challenging. I've had to adapt really a lot to it. I've had to put a lot of, as Talia had mentioned there, positive energy into it, trying to complete some tasks that need to be done. And whilst I think I've become a bit more productive because of this, because of the time that we've been awarded, it's still it's hard because the breaks that would have been seeing family, seeing friends, they would have been the breaks, and I think everyone, particularly in my social circle and my family circle, it's becoming quite difficult at this moment in time. We tried to do a family quiz night, and it didn't work purely because I think trying to get me nan to do FaceTime just doesn't work. I hope she's not listening, but either way, I've tried to that. But this is it. We're all trying to adapt, and I think that motivation to adapt has been really tough.
It's the change sometimes that's the hardest, and as I said earlier, personally, I found, like you say, the social side is really hard. And so I found that exercising is the hardest to get motivated for. I've always found sort of exercising socially is a lot more rewarding, and I get more from it than doing it on my own. But obviously during lockdown, you have to do it on your own. So I found exercise is the hardest thing to get motivation for. But as time goes on, you do find and you develop your own method or your own inner drive to actually go out and do that. And it's about feeling comfortable in doing so. Um, Obviously,
Yeah,
it's
I've
always
been. Sorry, I think for me, it's been just going back to being comfortable whilst doing stuff like that. I found that being able to take the dog with me has been a motivator, because I've got to take the dog. Like before, obviously when we were in this lockdown, before I could only take I could take the dog and do an exercise, but I tried to combine it into one, because I felt like it's more entertaining being able to walk the dog, because she's a whippet as well, so she'll just run and run and run anyway. So I used to go out for a run with her rather than a walk. I think it's finding that common sort of interest with whether that be a family member or in your household that you can sort of go out and do some exercise with, or even if you've got a pet. I mean, it's the sort of it's adapting, isn't it, to sort of suit.
definitely, and what I definitely, and I found that actually going out with a family member, like you said, to exercise is a great way to do that. And like I said earlier, I'm into social sports. But I found that when I go out and cycle with my mum, we'll often do around 10, 15 miles. And just having the company to go out on the roads and cycle can obviously be a bit more rewarding. And you also find a bit more motivation, because you might find that one of you said, "Oh, do you want to go for a cycle ride?" and the other doesn't feel like it, but you're able to motivate the other person and help them to actually get out the door and go and do it, because everyone is different. And so you might struggle to find the motivation to get up in the morning, or some might find it quite hard to motivate themselves to exercise. But I think the hardest part of any job or any task is actually starting it.
Yeah.
It's the beginning, isn't it? So the motivation to start can quite often be the hardest thing to find.
Yeah, but mostly when I do my exercise in the morning, I need like a lot of motivation because I go quite early. And then most of the time I just really don't want to go because I've got absolutely no motivation to get up. But then I just like get myself up. But then after, it's like a rewarding experience because I feel better about myself. Cause obviously, like because I've exercised, but then also I've done something productive out of the day.
Like you're saying, that was really good, because you found the system that works for you, and doing it in the morning then actually helps you to feel motivated for the rest of the day. And you already feel like you've done something then with your day. You've got up, you've done the exercise. So now I don't know what time you're finishing the exercise, but you said you were going early, so you feel like you've got the rest of the day to enjoy, and you've
Yeah,
already achieved something, which is really good.
I can't really go out exercise with my family because most of the time, my family, like my brothers and sisters, they're not really the kind to exercise. Like especially Declan, he used to, but then now just because of lockdown, he's just been on the PlayStation all the time. So he's not really wanting to actually come outside and actually do some exercise.
Mm. And like you said, I appreciate, is that your brother, is it?
Yeah,
And so he can't find the motivation maybe at the moment to sort of go out and exercise. And maybe as a sister, you can try and sort of encourage him and try and bring him along, because he might
yeah,
be thinking, "Oh, I wouldn't mind going, but it's quite hard to actually go out and start it." And I think once you do it once or twice and you get used to it and you feel more in your comfort zone, you get
yeah.
you get a better feeling about yourself. And once you complete the task or exercise, it's important that you praise yourself and reflect and look back on how well you've done to actually get to that point to complete it.
Yeah,
Because
definitely. Also, doing it in the morning, you feel like you're actually ready for the day ahead and you've already completed a task, which will obviously, as I said already, it will motivate you to complete more throughout the day.
yeah, it makes you feel happier and more confident for the rest of the day. And you've got then 10, 12 hours to enjoy the rest of the day and do those other sort of more leisure aspects, like using the PlayStation or maybe watching a bit of TV. And that's the downtime that you're able to reward yourself with. So
Yeah.
You see,
It's
for me, I think the big thing, as I said, it's interesting you mentioned that, Talia, about the like achieving a task early on in the day. I'm a firm believer that when you get up, if you make your bed, you've done the first task. You've achieved something in that day already. So it sets you up for the next task. If you just get up and slack and go back to the settee, you haven't really got up. So in that respect, having to achieve something. So the next motivation is really tough, and you find that the way that you start a day is the way that you'll end a day, and I think that's because you're switching your brain back on for the day, and it's like a computer. If you turn a PC on, and you've got you don't give it time to to get itself motivated. I always think PCs need motivating, but you won't get the work done that you want to do on it. So I think it's a similar thing with your brain, and you've got to take those small achievements, even though they may be, things like that may be small. I mean, obviously going out and exercising is a big achievement for myself, because of I haven't done that for so long. But just getting up and making my bed, I'm now motivated for the day.
Yeah, but I don't know about you guys, but what I do is, like, if I start a task, then once I start it, I feel like I have the motivation to be able to finish it. So then I'm able to actually finish it rather than just like leaving it and then not coming back to it for like so long, just leaving it.
Yeah, and sometimes by starting it, it might be a big task and you might have to leave it, but you've started it then at least, and you can actually always come back and still work on it. And I think that's where helping.
But then like starting it, that actually gives you the motivation to carry on and actually finish it.
Yeah, 100%. And a really useful technique to carry on and actually increase your motivation is to set out goals. So creating a few goals that you want to achieve during lockdown can help motivate you and actually focus your attention onto that task. And I don't think personally somebody has stayed motivated every single day of lockdown, as it's such a dramatic change. So if you set out goals, you can actually plan and make a bit of a forward plan that you're going to use to feel good about lockdown. Because once you achieve a goal, you tick it off, you get rewarded, but you're going through lockdown and you're still achieving things. So I think that's really, really important.
I think the difficulty comes from lack of clarity of when this is going to come to an end, because we don't with this coronavirus being so unprecedented, nobody expected this to happen, and nobody really knows how to deal with it. I don't think anybody has experienced this in their lifetime, unless you were around in the 1920s. But it's that feeling of uncertainty and unknowing what is going to happen, when is this going to come to an end. And I think when it comes to like motivating yourself, is you think, well, actually, this could all change in 2 months. Nobody knows. So and I think this is why people have been taking either one of two ways. I think if people have taken it as a chance to reflect and a chance to go, actually, right, what needs changing, what needs doing. As I say, for me, it's been a chance to do more stuff at home. It's been a chance to, because I haven't lived here for a long time. We've only been here for a year. We still got loads to do, so we wanted to get some of that done whilst we had the time. However, for some people, it might be that worry about what is actually going to happen beyond this. We're all talking about difference in the economy and that sort of thing, but I mean, for me, I just think it's really important that we all stay motivated, we all stay positive, because at the end of the day, we will come out of this the other side. There's no reason as to say that we won't. There's always going to be an end point to this situation that we will then be able to build and get back to normality.
Yeah. There have been some days where, like just at the start, where I had no motivation just to do anything, but I've had to make plans and set goals for myself just to give me that motivation to do something during lockdown with my time, because I've had no motivation to do it. So I felt like making goals for myself, that's really helped me like be productive within like the time that I have.
That's wonderful to hear, and it's been a great conversation with you both. And I'd just like to say to everybody that just you need to find that inner drive and keep going, because you will achieve something positive during this lockdown. And I hope you can keep going with your tasks, jobs and studies. But a big thank you to you both for coming on and joining me today for this podcast.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's been a pleasure.
And I look forward to the next podcast next week. So thank you all very much.